1, 2, 3, or more of these bad boys. So they've asked if we can do another shout out on the channel to promote some seriously big discounts, and here we are. You've probably heard of Displate by now. They make metal posters featuring both licensed and independent art. For example, they have a Destiny 2 storefront, a bittersweet way to commemorate and remember the game we lost. Still makes me more than a little sad whenever I see these up on my wall. I ordered 3 of these things, and just a few days later, they arrived in the mail. The next part was super easy because Displates stick to your walls with magnets. I actually had some Elden Ring Displates up already, and since the magnets were already on the wall, in just a few seconds, I had a completely different setup. And by the way, you can actually design your own Displates. This is one that I made featuring my favorite non-family photo, that time I got to meet Kojima-san. That's right, I will never not take the opportunity to show that photo. Best of all, they're incredibly affordable, even more affordable right now due to a special offer that's available exclusively to viewers of this channel. Click the link below or scan the QR code on screen to get 22% off 1 Displate, 27% off 2 Displates, and up to 33% off 3 or more Displates. Those discounts are only available if you click the link below or scan the QR code and use offer code SKILLUP at checkout. Not available on limited edition Displates, but everything else is fair game. Thanks Displate for sponsoring the video, and now let's get to it. Gamers, the great Xbox.
Good morning, everyone.
Reset is finally here, and I think we can all agree this reset is kind of good, or at the very least not as bad as we were expecting. I mean, we were all collectively braced for the worst. We were expecting thousands of job losses. Oh wait, sorry, that actually is happening. Xbox is sacking 3,200 people this year. Well look, we were all really worried about the fate of Double Fine, Compulsion, Ninja Theory, and Undead Labs, but now their future is secure, right? Wait, hang on a second. Compulsion and Double Fine are going to go independent at a time when game funding deals are rarer than hen's teeth, and Ninja Theory and Undead Labs are getting sold to some mysterious buyers, and we have absolutely no idea what their plans for these studios might be? Well look, at least Arcane survived, right? I mean, that's an incredibly talented studio with a decades-long track record, and they're currently making a Marvel game. Xbox would have been incredibly dumb to part ways with them, and thankfully, common sense prevailed. And sorry, I'm just being handed a note here that says, Xbox is currently in consultations with the French government about their plans for Arcane? Okay, well look, just focus on the bright side, okay? We still have Obsidian and id Software. These are real flagship studios that have constantly delivered well-made, technically polished games. id in particular, I mean, id Tech is literally the greatest FPS engine ever made, and I fear the power of the tech wizards that somehow get it to run at like 200 FPS on PCs that are 10 years old. But that's id Software for you, man. Or at least it was, because more than 130 of id's staff were laid off this week, including a significant number of their programmers and QA testers. Oh, and around 25% of Obsidian was let go too. Probably not a great time to mention that over 200 people were laid off from ZeniMax Online Studios, and that the future of the Elder Scrolls Online is anything but certain at this point. But don't worry guys, Mojang and King report directly to Asher Sharma now, and they appointed a COO for the first time ever, so I personally am feeling really good about the future of Xbox right now. If I am being flippant, it's because I do not at all fuck with the way that this latest news is being received. The news that the trillion-dollar corporation points to Obsidian, id's game engine, and Psychonauts and says, yep, there's your problem. Here's someone who I think frames it rather sensibly. Bernie Sanders, quote, last year, Microsoft made $101 billion in profits, got a $12.5 billion tax break from Trump, and paid its CEO $96 million. This year, it's raising the price of an Xbox by $150 and eliminating 3,200 jobs, end quote. I do this every time, but do you know you could employ 960 people at $100,000 each for a full year for the same amount of money that you're paying to one dude for 1 year. A dude who, mind you, shoulders a fair share of the blame for the current state of Xbox. Always helpful to put a potential headcount on a CEO's salary whenever they're sacking thousands of people, I found. Now look, do I think that nothing at Xbox should have changed? Of course I don't. Clearly their business was not working, and buried in Asher's email was a fair amount of sensible stuff which we will cover, but I bristle at the framing of all of this as though Xbox is making the best of a bad situation when they're the ones that made the situation bad. As if Microsoft is somehow doing these companies a favor by letting them continue to exist in some amorphous form. Like, you bought these studios, you gave them their marching orders, you managed them and are presently managing them as they continue to make cool looking games that people are excited to play, and now you want to jettison that because you want to make more Elder Scrolls games? You want to sack id Software staff after their generational run this past decade, and sack Obsidian staff after they delivered you like 30% of your first party output over the last 5 years. For me, I think this is a profoundly sad day for Xbox, not only because it sees 1,600 people lose their jobs just today, and another 1,600 people lose their jobs very soon, but also because it signals the end of an important era of Xbox, one where smaller games and smaller teams still mattered. This reset is entirely about aligning all of Xbox's resources behind big existing franchises so they can become even bigger, but they already have Minecraft and Candy Crush and Call of Duty and Warcraft and Diablo and Overwatch and Forza and Elder Scrolls and Doom and Fallout and on, and it's still just not enough. I'm all for making Fallout New Vegas 2, I truly am, but I'm also interested, deeply interested in fact, in Microsoft investing in smaller teams and smaller games, and not only because I think Microsoft has a responsibility to help fund games that might not otherwise get made, but also because I think Microsoft is a deeply uncreative business, and if it's going to learn how to become creative, then better to do that learning on smaller projects built by smaller teams, rather than spending another $500 million on a Gears of War game. Think of how much treasure has been spilled by Microsoft over the past generation as it struggled to do anything with the majority of its flagship franchises, and somehow Tim Schafer ends up losing his job? This shit is just so ass backwards. Anyway, look, I'm getting worked up. Let's take it from the top and try to cover all these details properly. Earlier this week, new Xbox boss Asher Sharma released the Great Reset Manifesto, a blog post on the Xbox Wire feed that outlined Xbox plans for studio spinouts, job cuts, and resource reallocation. It begins, quote, "Team, we are beginning the most significant restructure in Xbox history. After careful consideration, I've made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 throughout FY27. This will include approximately 1,600 role eliminations today, and in addition, 4 studios will leave Xbox to new management. I recognize that a year-long restructuring creates additional challenges. Unfortunately, it's not possible to make all of the necessary changes in a single day, and I want to be direct about the scale," end quote. To put these layoffs in perspective, this is the largest single cut that Xbox has ever admitted to. Since the July 2025 layoffs saw Microsoft sack 9,000 people across their whole business, with a significant but undisclosed number of those being Xbox employees. That's 3,200 people who will probably have to leave the games industry entirely now. Since it's not like anyone's hiring, it adds to the estimated 45,000 people who have been laid off from games industry roles over the last 5 years, many of them forced to leave the industry forever, a permanent brain drain for video games, the impacts of which will be felt for many, many years to come. Sharma would then go on to outline her causus belli, quote, "Our business today is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. We entered Gen 9 with a smaller install base and a higher cost structure. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. While these businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected. As that happened, our core business weakened, and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome. And now the industry is facing the most severe hardware crisis in its history. We must reset Xbox," end quote. Sharma isn't lying here, and this is a remarkably candid assessment of Xbox's strategy and failures under Phil Spencer's leadership. Phil thought that the hardware battle was all but lost at the start of Gen 9, an admission he made during a Kinda Funny podcast appearance where he said that Xbox lost the most important console generation, the one where we all built our digital libraries. In response, he opened up new fronts, Game Pass and xCloud, and while both found growth, neither of them delivered the scale needed to justify the significant investment into them or the transformative impact that Game Pass would have on buying habits, since Xbox console owners were effectively being trained to no longer purchase games.
Have you ever seen a game where the stronger you become, the more dangerous it is? You are in the wilderness with no guidance and no tasks. You must always be on guard against sneak attacks from players and bosses. The boss is here.
A point that we here at thisweekinvideogames.com have covered extensively after developers started telling us this years ago. But Asher conveniently leaves out one line item in this list of growth vectors, the acquisition of Activision Blizzard King for $69 billion, a sum so vast that it would completely destabilize the Xbox business. When that happened, I said at the time that the earn-out imperative would supersede all else, and that it would be absolutely impossible for Xbox to care about its smaller teams and projects when its balance sheet was so lopsided. That naturally led to Xbox to adopt a multi-platform release model, since the business was now more leveraged into its IP holdings than its platform install base. And this week, it's also naturally led to Xbox jettisoning almost every studio that isn't stewarding a blockbuster IP. And not for nothing, but it's at least a little amusing that Sharma points to the present hardware crisis without mentioning that Microsoft is literally one of the biggest reasons that this hardware crisis exists, since they're spending some $190 billion on AI-related capex this year, Oh no, but Double Fine is too expensive to keep on the balance sheet. Sure, let's frame it that way. Speaking of which, let's look at what Sharma says about the decision to spin out 4 studios this week. Quote, since 2018, we have aggressively expanded our studio portfolio while the number of games created each month across the industry now outpaces the last 10 years combined. We now find ourselves competing not only with the largest publishers, but also with smaller independent studios. It's neither possible nor desirable to own every great independent studio. We have also learned that we are not the best home for every type of studio. In a typical year, we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. As we reset Xbox, we will help independent creators succeed by providing open development tools and audiences to realize their vision, end quote. Okay, so this is where I really started to get pissed off. I think the framing of this whole paragraph is too clever by half, and I really do tip my hat to whoever wrote it because I think it's done a fantastic job of muddying the waters around Microsoft's decision. Firstly, Microsoft's small studios were never competing with other independent studios. Like, that's ridiculous framing. People who are interested in this segment of the market don't buy one indie game a year, they buy half a dozen or more. Just because I bought Psychonauts doesn't mean I'm not going to buy Mina the Hollower, so putting it this way I think is just really disingenuous. Secondly, it's neither possible nor desirable to own every great independent studio. Of course it fucking isn't. No one's saying that you should. What are you talking about? This is just more nonsense. Thirdly, we have also learned that we are not the best home for every type of studio. In a typical year, we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. And I've seen this figure bandied about studio. In a typical year, we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. And I've seen this figure bandied about studio. In a typical year, we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. So much since this post went up, with people being like, well, clearly Xbox had to get rid of those 4 studios. They were losing so much money on them. But how much of that 64 cents loss could be attributed to Double Fine, which never had more than about 100 people on its staff, or Compulsion, or Ninja Theory, or Undead Labs, who all had about the same headcount? 400 people on an average of around 100,000 per year is $40 million a year, by the way, for a company that pays its CEO $96 million a year, and that this year is spending $175,000 million on data centers in 1 year. So don't put these two figures next to each other and try to argue that these 4 studios had to go so that Xbox could survive. And even if you were to zero in on these studios, how are you measuring losses? What's the calculation? First-party games aren't just about their baseline profitability. They're also about how much they attract people to your ecosystem and how much they round out your portfolio so you have different things to offer to different audiences. Did you know that Psychonauts 2 is literally the only Xbox game from the past generation to receive a nomination for Game of the Year at the Game Awards? How do you put that on a profit and loss statement? And for the record, I'm not saying these studios are perfect. Obviously, South of Midnight did not sell well, and obviously Undead Labs have been spinning their wheels for far too long while making State of Decay 3. I do think there is a case to be made for some changes to be made at these studios, but I really don't accept the framing that these studios had to go because they were costing Microsoft, a company worth nearly $3 trillion, too much money. These studios were never meant to make you lots of money. That was never their purpose, and it sucks to see that being used as a justification for their jettison. Anyway, Sharma went on to clarify what exactly would be happening to these 4 studios. Quote, Compulsion Games and Double Fine Productions will return to management and transition to independent studios with their IP, catalog, and runway for their next games. Ninja Theory and Undead Labs have entered into terms to join new ownership with funding to compete and grow Senua and State of Decay 3, end quote. Admittedly, in a world where most publishers, including Xbox, just shut down studios and hoard their IP like Stuff Goblins, this is one of the more gracious ways to part ways with a studio that we've seen. Negotiated sales, IP rights, back catalog, and runway funding. It does help these studios navigate this next period, sure. But what about beyond that? For Compulsion and Double Fine in particular, they're now independent studios in need of funding at a time when the funding cupboard is well and truly bare. And as for Undead Labs and Ninja Theory's new owners, we have no idea what plans they have for these studios, so we don't yet know if this is truly a safe harbor. Sharma then revealed that Arcane Leon was also on the chopping block, but couldn't provide any details on that since French labor laws are very strict, and so Microsoft has now entered into negotiations with the relevant authorities. Hard to imagine that those negotiations end with Microsoft still owning Arcane and agreeing to fund Blade to completion. This is Arcane Leon, by the way, who made Dishonored and Deathloop, and who secured a Marvel IP deal and are now facing the possibility of closure. Ironically, I do think the fact that Blade is a Marvel IP may be what endangers them most. With Microsoft fully aligning behind its own IP, why invest in building up an IP owned by Disney? EA reached the same conclusion when they slowed down their investment in Star Wars titles some years ago. I wonder if Sony might one day come to that same conclusion. For a missive that seems so willing to provide specifics when it's convenient, Sharma's vagueness in this next section is notable. Quote, "We are also making reductions across other units, and in some cases, shifting investment to focus on higher priority projects. These changes vary in size across Activision, Bethesda, ZeniMax, Blizzard, King, Mojang, and Xbox Game Studios."
Like that. All right.
None of our first-party publicly announced games or projects are being cancelled as part of these reductions, end quote. So, what were these reductions? Well, the picture is coming into view bit by bit. For example, Kotaku reported that Obsidian lost around 25% of their people. This is a studio that has been an absolute content powerhouse for Xbox this past generation, delivering Grounded 1 and 2, Pentiment, Avowed, and The Outer Worlds 2. And look, not all of those games were fantastic, and not all of them were smash hits. But there's an argument to be made that Obsidian is one of the most efficiently run studios in the business right now, since their output has been borderline prodigious in an era where some studios take 10 plus years to release a single game.
Excuse me, you're reading wrong.
Oh,
Show me your book. I'm gonna take a picture of it.
You claim to want to focus on getting more games out the door, and then you sack people who have done a better job of that than any other studio in your stable? Like, what do you even say to that? That's all the more maddening because Jason Schreier of Bloomberg is reporting that Obsidian were working on Avowed 2, but that project has since been cancelled so that Obsidian can now work on a new Fallout game led by Josh Sawyer, director of the recent Pentiment, but before that, director of Fallout New Vegas. So it doesn't take much imagination to guess that we're finally going to get New Vegas 2, and we'd probably be getting it sooner and at a better level of quality if Microsoft hadn't just sacked 25% of Obsidian. We also know, by way of a publicly filed warn notice, that ZeniMax Online Studios, the team behind The Elder Scrolls Online, lost 213 people, and while we don't know what proportion of the studio that was, it's clearly a significant amount given that reports put the studio's estimated headcount at somewhere between 300 and 500 developers, though that was before the layoffs related to Project Blackbird mid last year. We don't know what the fate of The Elder Scrolls Online might be, but community manager Jessica Folsom did post on community forums saying, quote, "The roadmaps we previously shared will be shifting," end quote. But the real kicker here is the absolute decimation of id Software, with roughly 130 people of their 200-person studio cut, with many of the roles focused on technical disciplines like programming and quality assurance. And I don't know how many of you know this, but id's technical legacy is basically peerless in the world of video games. It is a great source of pride for this studio that they pioneered numerous graphical and engine technologies, and that their games were so influential. The id Tech engine is still technological black magic, delivering absolutely absurd performance on even low-end hardware at a time when I can't get most AAA games running at 60 FPS on my 5090. These cuts have thrown into question the future of the id Tech engine, since Microsoft seems more than happy to move a lot of their developers over to Unreal Engine, just like they did for Halo Studios. Some former id Software employees have openly speculated that a move to Unreal seems likely, but there's been no official confirmation of that. Our staff at thisweekinvideogames.com actually checked with a source at Microsoft who has some knowledge of the matter, and they indicated that Microsoft does plan to continue utilizing the id Tech engine into the future, but the obvious question then becomes, Who's going to maintain that engine when you've just fired so many of the people who have built it or are trained in it? There is a Frankfurt-based id studio who seem to specialize in the id Tech engine, so perhaps we can guess that they'll now fully own it going forward, but Microsoft have not provided any clarification on this. All of this talk has just been about the technical side of id, where their creative side is just as strong. Art design, level design, combat design, you name it, id crush it. And talk about consistency. This studio has put out 3 games in a 10-year period, all of them with vastly different core combat models, all of them technically flawless, and all of them critically and commercially successful. In fact, I'm going to show you something. 2 weeks ago, I participated in a group interview with id's co-directors Hugo Martin and Marty Stratton, and I asked them, how has id managed to put out 3 incredible polished games inside a 10-year period at a time when there's so much pressure on AAA game development? Here's what Hugo Martin told me, quote, "For us internally, we have the pressures of the founders, the team that came before us. They literally invented a genre and made one of the greatest shooters, greatest video games of all time. Anytime there's a top 5 list, Doom 1 is usually on that list. So it's kind of like they made The Godfather, so our project, it has to be good. And there's a lot of internal pressure there, but we live for it. It's why we came here. It's why I came here. It's cheesy, but it's an honor to do this stuff," end quote. That is the pride that these people take in their work. That is the bar they set for themselves, and yet by some miracle, they managed to clear that bar every single time, and it still wasn't enough. You can literally be perfect in every category, technical, creative, commercial, and it still isn't enough to protect your studio or your job, just like it didn't protect Tango Gameworks. And this is why you do not, on any level, have to hand it to Microsoft for their handling of this reset. I don't care what the trillion-dollar corporation says about their margins, because ultimately, it doesn't matter. Make an average game that doesn't sell, get laid off. Make multiple, incredible games that all sell gangbusters. Believe it or not, still get laid off. Sharma would go on to detail further proposed cuts to Xbox's platform business, the people responsible for things like Game Pass, xCloud publishing, etc. She says that some decisions were going through 14 layers of management, and said that a significant flattening of management layers would take effect in order to enable better decision making and coordination. In that context, Sharma signaled an end to one of the defining characteristics of Phil Spencer's leadership, the autonomy he afforded his studios. Phil famously said that his job was to acquire great studios and then just get out of the way to let them make the things that they want to make. And while that sometimes worked, it very often didn't. And toward the end of Phil's tenure, it became clear that this hands-off approach had not delivered a sustainable pipeline of high-quality games. Sharma characterized it this way, quote, "As Xbox grew our headcount, we became more fragmented. Teams, studios, and functions often operated independently, and it became harder to work toward a shared goal, make the right trade-offs, and get things done," end quote. In response, Sharma is appointing Helen Chiang as Xbox's first COO, the implication being that a more central style of management will be brought to bear, allowing for Xbox to make decisions and allocate resources in a more coordinated fashion. Quote, "These changes are about a bigger future for Xbox, not a smaller one. The next decade of gaming will be larger, more global, and more creative than anything we've seen before. This year, we'll invest as much in Xbox as we ever have, but we'll invest with greater focus, greater discipline, and greater clarity, all in service of making Xbox where the world plays and creates. I want Xbox to be one of the few companies that entertains more than 1 billion people each day and gives everyone the opportunity to create and connect," end quote. A very ambitious goal, given that Xbox currently reaches about 500 million people per month. Can Call of Duty, Todd Howard, and Candy Crush deliver a 6?
Looks like I'll be getting affiliate very soon. Because my viewers, my unique viewers, are at 5 right now. I needed 3.
60-fold increase in that figure? I guess we're about to find out. So look, that's all we know or is reported at the current moment, and I'm sure more details are going to trickle out over the coming days, but I would stress that 1,600 more Xbox employees are guaranteed to lose their jobs over the next few months, in addition to the 1,600 people who lost their jobs today, in addition to the 400 staff attached to the studios being spun out today, in addition to Arcane Leon staff, and their headcount is around 130 people. That's a total of 5 studios and more than 3,500 people leaving Xbox in the next few months, with even some of Xbox's most critically and commercially acclaimed studios affected. So please, miss me with the Xbox actually handled this pretty well bullshit. I'm 100% with Digital Foundry on this. This is worse than we were expecting, and I think we all have to wait until the wreckage comes to a complete stop before we can stand back and fully appreciate how much has been lost or destroyed here. A quick lightning round now to serve as a bit of a palate cleanser, and Sony certainly haven't had a great couple of weeks. What with Twitter being basically unusable for them after their recent physical media announcement, things haven't gotten any better with the news that Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls has been blocked on Steam in over 130 countries and territories. This is almost certainly related to the PSN requirement, since the 130 countries and territories listed do not have official support for the PSN, and Valve implemented that policy in an attempt to remain legally compliant in those areas. There are, of course, ways around that for players motivated enough, but there's also going to be more than a few people who are going to miss out on Tokon as a result of this. Hopefully Sony can change this PSN requirement or the policies around it at some point, but they haven't done so yet, so I wouldn't hold my breath. If you were hoping that Sony might do an about-face on that recent physical media announcement, then I've got bad news for you. They've already moved on and have started a new relationship with a hot new component called an optical micro lens. Sony have already begun repurposing their disc printing plant in Austria, which used to produce upwards of 600,000 discs every day. Now they use this component, which is used in camera lenses and headsets. Keep the Twitter pressure on, people. It's probably not going to do anything, but it is funny to watch. Speaking of physical discs, according to The Verge, Xbox is apparently working on a disc-to-digital feature that will allow users to digitize physical copies of games. According to The Verge's sources, the feature will require players to insert a disc into a console with a disc drive, install the game, and sign into their Microsoft account to claim a digital entitlement that is then tied to that account. Swapping a physical disc with a friend will result in that game's digital entitlement jumping over to the other account. Discs will reportedly still be playable after you've redeemed a digital version. The Verge claims that this will only work for Xbox Series X and Xbox One discs and won't be compatible with original Xbox or Xbox 360 discs. A system like this makes a lot of sense if a company doesn't plan to support physical disc drives in future product releases. So if this reporting is true, I certainly wouldn't expect Project Helix to support physical media. Not that we ever really expected it to in the first place. That little known indie gem, Cyberpunk 2077, has now sold through 40 million units. This news comes during the Steam sale where the game was sold at a tiny discount, pushing the daily concurrent player count back up over 100,000 people. That's like 20 marathons. We used to use Concord as a unit metric, but times have moved on since. How about an actual indie success story to finish? French slot game Mecha Chameleon has now sold through 15 million units since its launch just a few weeks ago. Notice how I called it Mecha Chameleon instead of Mecha Chameleon? That's because I got a text from someone being like, please stop mispronouncing it. And you know what? Fair enough. If I sold 15 million units or something, I'd want people to be pronouncing it correctly. I mean, just this week I uploaded a The Blood of Dawnwalker preview, and I truly 100% thought that the name of that game was Blood of the Dawnwalker, to the point where when people began correcting me, my brain was like, what do you mean? Those things are the same. Anyway, I don't even know how I got into this topic. Oh, that's right. Breakout indie French slop hit Mecha Chameleon.
Simply press generate. That's
Big congrats to them. So what got announced or delayed this week, aside from all the layoffs, of course? Well, we did get a couple of delays since we last checked in. The next game from Frictional Games, the developers of Amnesia and Soma, got pushed out to 2027. This is a sci-fi horror game called Ontos, and though it didn't really have a specific window locked down, it seemed like they were aiming for 2026. Maybe this is just a stunt to remind us that this exists. This is PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. The delay was also announced this week for Danganronpa 2X2, which they're calling a full retelling, not a remake, of the very highly regarded murder investigation visual novel. This one featuring an enhanced version of the original story on top of an all-new one. They pushed this one out of 2026 and into early 2027 as well. So in the meantime, if you're looking for a game about teenagers killing each other, you'll just have to boot up Fortnite. It's kind of the same thing, I guess. PC, PlayStation, and Switch platforms for this one. So what came out last week? Well, the first big one we wanted to mention was Doom: The Dark Ages Revelations, the expansion for id Software's excellent shooter, which somehow manages to mix up the Doom combat formula in a new way again with this new chain spear weapon and several other trimmings. No formal reviews for this one, as unfortunately no pre-release code was provided to any outlet, but over on Steam it's currently sitting at very positive, though truth be told, the great majority of those reviews are coming from people who have left a review just to express their sympathies and anger towards the devastating Xbox layoffs that have hit id Software. A nice showing of solidarity there. Here's one about the game itself though, from Steam user Ninjaman, quote, best DLC yet. Huge expansion as promised with plenty to do. There's a learning curve with the spear, but it's well worth the effort. The level of challenge is far higher than the base Dark Ages, especially once you start working on the endgame portion. Combat is very demanding of the player at nightmare difficulty, but is completely fair thanks to the toolkit provided. Endgame objectives are even more crazy, but the pacing and difficulty curve feels great. The story is actually pretty good and serves to expand the lore and history of the Slayer. The soundtrack is phenomenal as well, with tons of classic Doom 1/2 themes woven in. This is the perfect capstone to the modern Doom trilogy, end quote. I want to say that hopefully this is not the last twist on Doom we'll see from id, but after the events of this week, I just don't know if that's true. Okay, moving on to a more positive story, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. This is the remake that Ubisoft is likely hoping will take off in a big way as they wrestle with their own company reset and make their own sweeping layoffs. This one's landed at a mighty 86 on OpenCritic with over 100 critic reviews counted, which is definitely a stark contrast from the last game held by Ubisoft Singapore, Skull and Bones. Worth noting that this Metacritic score is despite some folks who really didn't like it very much. And I suppose as a remake, there's always going to be some friction for long-time AC fans. One of them is GameSpot's reviewer who landed on a 7 out of 10, saying, quote, "Resynced is half a step towards something truly fantastic. If you play it, you'll see why the original game was the de facto pirate video game for years, but you'll also find a remake that doesn't manage to take the crown from the very game that it's remaking."
It's alright.
On our team, Austin was the one to tackle this one, and can you believe this? This guy never played Black Flag before, so we thought it'd be pretty interesting to see whether we're all just looking at this one with some nostalgia goggles. But you know what? Without the burden of what it was before, he still really loved this. He saw the magic and strengths of the game for what they were, and now he's firmly part of Kenway's crew. I'll drop a link to his review below the like button. By the way, don't forget to hit the like button. Quick trip to Anime and Sports Town now, and Echoes of Aincrad was Namco's new action RPG based on the anime Sword Art Online, and that's landed at a fair 66 on OpenCritic. DualShockers gave it a 6.5 and said the game, quote, "finally understands what fans wanted from this series in the first place,"
It's
end quote.
also
But the
Sword
quote,
for
"Echoes
me
of
too."
Aincrad still feels like a game that's only halfway towards reaching its full potential," end quote. And ending now on EA Sports College Football 27, like a hole-in-one at the bottom of the 9th on overtime during a penalty shootout, and other sports references. This annual entry has earned itself a strong 76 on OpenCritic, but with only 5 critic reviews. IGN slapped a 7 out of 10 on this one, knocking the monetization stuff, but ultimately saying, quote, "This season ain't gonna knock anybody's socks off, and both Dynasty and Road to Glory have leaned hard into spreadsheet management this year, but smart on-field additions to an already good game make College Football 27 worth suiting up for once again," end quote. Certainly sounds like a sports game, alright. So what's coming out this week? Well, the floodgates have well and truly opened again after a couple of very quiet weeks in June, and the first wave out the gate is a torrent of indies trying to get over the line before the big dogs start crowding around again. First up, have you heard of this game? It's a little one called Palworld. Made a bit of a splash a little while back, got a few wanted stars from Nintendo cops, and now this thing is finally coming out with its 1.0 version on July 10th, and they're promising some very big overhauls to mark the occasion. A new location, a conclusion of its story, a bunch of new pals. Remember when some off-brand Pokemon seemed like the worst thing in the world to ever happen to video games? Ah, innocent times. PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Mac for this one. For some reason, not a Switch 2 port in sight. Next week is a very busy one, and it's kicking off with the incident at Galley House, our radar pick from last week. This one's out on July 14th, and as a brief refresher, this is a locked room murder mystery deduction game where you're trying to piece together how a bunch of people in a 1930s mansion all died, but you're doing it many decades later with the help of a weird machine that lets you pick up on old audio waves still lingering in the air, so long as you can lock in on exactly who, where, and when. This one comes from the developers of The Root Trees Are Dead, and it's PC only. Also coming out on July 14th is a game called Detopia. This is actually the latest game being published by Annapurna Interactive, and it's developed by a small indie studio from Japan called Marumitsu, made up of 2 people who used to work at acclaimed RPG studio Level 5, known for Ni no Kuni, Professor Layton, and many other games. Detopia is a kind of gentle adventure game where you play a human caretaker in a facility that uses AI to manage the happiness of its residents. Needless to say, you'll step in, hear the stories of the residents, and add that human touch to solve problems that machines can't tackle. This one's hitting all platforms. Another gentle game hitting all platforms the next day on July 15th is called Cozy Groove Camp Spirit. This is the sequel to the crafting/life simulator/management game, which was so good that developer Spry Fox got snapped up by Netflix to make this one exclusively for Netflix subscribers on iOS and Android. Then Netflix decided they didn't actually want to develop interesting video games anymore and sold Spry Fox off in 2025, letting them once again be independent. Sound like any other corporation you know? Question mark. So yeah, this game was originally released back in 2024, but now these guys are independent. It's landing on absolutely all platforms. Good luck to them. And man, it sure is a big week for cozy games, because also releasing on the 15th is Go-Go Town. It's a kind of hands-on city builder and management game where you play as the mayor. This one's been humming along in early access for a couple of years now with a very positive sentiment behind it, and it finally hits the 1.0 milestone on this day, which comes alongside a Switch 1 and 2 release.
Tile Survive has to be one of the most relaxing and comforting games of 2026. There's no pressure, and it's super easy to play. You don't need to stay online all day, and there's no endless grinding either. Just hop in whenever you feel like it. Collect
also comes from our part of the world, which is nice. For something a little more intense, look no further than Dench Attack, the high-octane Jet Set Radio-inspired game where you do sick tricks with your train in a reimagined version of Japan. Looks great, definitely one for anyone who likes a bit of reflex-oriented challenge. This game's coming out after a short delay on PC, PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and Switch 2. Also out the same day is a game called The Mound Omen of Cthulhu, which is a co-op first-person Lovecraftian adventure where you and up to 3 players explore a cursed jungle and challenge yourselves to go as deep as you can to search for treasure while fighting off its hostile inhabitants, while also trying to manage a madness system that will mess up what you might see. Kind of like an extraction shooter, but with a big paranoia element between players. This one's being published by the troubled Nacon, and it's also being developed by a little outfit called Ace Team, an indie studio from Chile who have made some very janky but fascinating and interesting games like Rock of Ages and Xenoclash. Definitely have their own vibe, so really interested to see how this one fares. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles for this one. If you like intrigue though, keep an eye out for The Mermaid Mask, which arrives on July 16th. This is the latest from Crow Country developers SFB Games, and it's the latest in their Detective Grimoire series. These are really nicely animated point-and-click adventure games where both puzzles and deduction gameplay plays a big part. These are generally really well regarded, so good things expected for this one as well. PC, PS5, and Switch 1 and 2 for this one. If you've ever owned a VR headset, you've probably heard a little bit about Moss, which joined Astrobot in being a prime example of how you could build a really good 3D platforming game in VR. Now that VR's on the way out for like the 5th time, developers Polyarc have thought to adapt both Moss 1 and 2 into a single game for a flat screen experience. This one's headed to all platforms. Meanwhile, Wreck Runners was one we mentioned a few shows ago. This is a physics-based 4-player co-op extraction game where you play a bunch of robots with gravity guns, essentially, which sounds like a good time on paper, I guess. It's been put together by a studio called Disruptive Games, who have previously helped out on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 and Diablo 2 Resurrected, among other things. And this seems to be their first original game. This one hits PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. And finally, if you like your multiplayer games on the couch, then Heave Ho 2 is the game for you this week. Though I should say you can play this one online as well if you want to. It just won't be as raucous. This is a sequel to the physics-based party game created by Lee Cartel Studio and published by Devolver Digital, where you play a bunch of heads and arms trying to help each other move things through some pretty interesting situations, and no doubt failing spectacularly. But that is all part of the fun, isn't it? PC and Switch 1 and 2 for this one. Last week on this segment, we featured an upcoming game that's slow and cerebral, and this week we've got one for the twitchy action crowd, so put this on your radar. This is a game called Kaz, and it's a roguelike grid-based dungeon crawler about absolutely blitzing your way through a dungeon as fast as humanly possible. You'll start on a tiny, simple map and have 15 seconds to frantically throw your avatar all over the place in order to take out enough enemies before the clock runs out. If you've hit the score threshold, you'll grab an upgrade and head to the next slightly more complex dungeon and try to do the same thing, but faster. Visually, it's going for a pretty minimalist hand-drawn style, but on top it layers all sorts of chunky screen shake and psychedelic explosions and effects that really make the act of running into dozens of enemies really intense. It's an absolute dopamine rush with some nice build craft to think about and a few different classes to play with. And it's just a great game to boot up for a few minutes and then eventually lose an hour or more. For those of you who don't have the APM of a StarCraft Pro, there's also a more chilled out super hot mode where time only moves when you move and you can focus on the build craft elements. Kaz comes out Monday the 13th of July, exclusive to Steam, and there's a free demo right now if you'd like to check it out. If you do want to check it out, we've left a link to it over on our Steam curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff we've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Our feel-good story for the week may provide some relief during taxing times. Those times? Steam sales. I know you people, I see you, for I am one of you. Our backlogs stretch beyond the physical limits of time and space, and yet whenever a Steam sale banner rolls out, we start looking at that Command & Conquer remaster being like, I'm sure I'll make time for this one, right after my 12th Elden Ring playthrough. Luckily, Mike Wing has got your back. He created the Steam Summer Sale Simulator. Now you can buy games without spending any actual money. Worried that you don't truly own them? Don't worry, my man, you never did, because when you buy stuff on Steam, you're just buying a license to it anyway. Worried that you won't be able to play them because they're not actual games? My dude, you were never gonna play them anyway. Be serious. Mike Wing has done you a goddamn favor here, so be sure to say thank you from repurchasing the Splinter Cell Legacy Bundle at a 75% discount. On second thought though, that price does sound pretty good. Okay, ladies and gents, that is the show for the week. Another bummer, sadly, but surely sometime soon we've got to get some good news, right? Like, God, I hope so. Well, there is some good news, actually. We just launched a Discord for thisweekinvideogames.com. We're going to talk more about it soon when we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the website. But if you're keen to jump in, then head over to thisweekinvideogames.com, sign up either for free or as a paid supporter, and you can join that Discord right away. It's already buzzing with a few hundred people in there and some great conversation, so we'd love for you to join us. You know what else we'd love? A like, because we're not above asking for that. And if you're new around here, then be sure to subscribe and ding that notification bell. I'm off to play some Dune the Dark Ages Revelations now, since everyone tells me it's peak. Plus, I'm also going to be checking out the Steam Machine this week, since mine arrived and, yeah, we'll talk more about that one later. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Bong, 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 bong.
You know, I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going to be happening to the gaming industry in the next couple of years, especially when 2028 rolls around. If you haven't been keeping up with the times, a lot of stuff has happened this past week. PlayStation announced they're going to be going around and no longer offering physical game discs after 2028. And the internet apparently lost its collective absolute mind. And during that actual announcement, PlayStation waited for Xbox to announce their massive amounts of layoffs. 3,200 total Xbox employees over this next fiscal year. 1,600 earlier on Monday, and another 1,600 literally later on in the year. And the funniest part is PlayStation was so petty, they actually waited until the day after Microsoft's layoffs to go through and finally tweet back online. Yeah, apparently things didn't go well because PlayStation was getting hit hook, line, and sinker back and forth, front to back from multiple community notes on every single post. And even with PlayStation becoming the most dislikable company in all of 2026 from one simple move, and going around and getting every single post they've ever put out completely brigaded, not only from community posts, but also in replies, what did game journals talk about? Closing down Xbox. Because according to IGN.com, yesterday they also made this tweet. Microsoft may not be able to sell off Xbox in its entirety, even if it wanted to, but big companies may try to buy parts of it. And even The Verge also chimed in the day before, saying if Microsoft sold off Xbox, who would even buy it? Now look, I'm going to be real about this. I have no idea why we have so many other news outlets literally doing the exact same kind of article just a few days apart, or even one day apart. Even though we've heard rumors of Microsoft potentially spinning off Xbox into its own brand and Xbox having massive layoffs, clearly a lot of the actual intricacies and stuff happening inside weren't really talked about either in either one of those posts, seeing as how there were 14 layers of management inside of Xbox. And it got so bad that even developers like Obsidian and Bethesda were refusing to make a Fallout game, especially when the Fallout TV show was being successful and having other major seasons. They wanted to make Avowed 2 instead. Now, granted, I am a little bit of an Avowed fan. I do like the game, but mostly because I'm huge into Pillars of Eternity and the lore in that game. But the thing is, though, I can clearly tell, and everybody else can, that Avowed 2 wasn't going to be the biggest chart topper on the face of the earth. And the thing is, to sit here and talk about Xbox while PlayStation is having its most insane moment ever all over the internet truly knows no bounds. Hell, it's gotten so bad that even PlayStation on their own live streams are actually muting and banning people if you bring anything up about having a disc for your game. Because according to Pierre54V saying this, attention, on the PlayStation France stream, any message referring to the PlayStation decision is censored and you will be banned. That's how the brand treats its players. Bravo, congratulations. And even though that kind of treatment on their actual viewers is insane if you ask me, because even on my streams I don't ban anybody for something like that, that's actually stupid. What I have noticed, though, is this. If Microsoft can actually cut down a lot of the fat, if they can reduce a lot of the issues they were having and literally focus on the main core of their games, you could honestly see Microsoft, even in some way, capitalize on Sony's biggest blunder we've ever actually seen. And I think that's the scary part that nobody is in fact talking about. Well, nobody except game journos. And they're not saying it in the nice way. Because according to IGN, Microsoft reportedly plans to make more of its best games console exclusive, so people actually have a reason to buy an Xbox console. So what could skip PlayStation? Oh, you gotta love it, don't you? Even when there's actual news of what people in fact want. Now, granted, I don't like exclusives either because I'm not gonna buy an Xbox, and the second they stop putting their games onto PC, I'm basically just gonna stop buying their games. So clearly, I'm not gonna be the one spending $900 to $1,000 on a brand new Xbox console to play a couple of games. Same way, I'm not gonna do the exact same thing for a PlayStation 6 or even a PS5 Pro. But what I find incredibly funny is how for some reason Xbox is the only company that's not allowed to have any exclusive content whatsoever. The thing is, many Xbox fans have been wanting exclusives on their platform or even console exclusives, and everybody's made the argument about why PlayStation leaving PC was a good thing for them. But for some reason when Xbox does it and they leave PlayStation, it's a bad thing for them overall. And I've always found it kind of funny how there's this major catch-22 about Xbox having exclusive titles, where everybody would say, oh, you need exclusives to sell your consoles. Okay, so make a couple of games exclusive then, because that's what you guys are saying. Well, no, you can't have exclusive games because you don't sell enough consoles. Your exclusives will fail if you don't make them multi-platform. But hold on, how do I sell more consoles if I don't have exclusives? But then you're saying I can't have exclusives because then I don't sell enough consoles. That's the trick. That's where they get you every time. And the logic is incredibly flawed. Which again is also why I don't like exclusives in the first place. But the thing is, let's see what IGN had to say and go from there. With the article saying this, Microsoft reportedly plans to make more of its best games console exclusive, so people actually have a reason to buy an Xbox console. The new Xbox boss Asha Sharma has already begun this process, making the Coalition's Gears of War E-Day and In Exile's Clockwork Revolution available on Xbox Series X, S, and PC only, skipping PlayStation 5 in the process. But according to Bloomberg, Microsoft plans to return to exclusives in a more meaningful way. Big multiplayer games will continue to release across platforms, including PS5, Bloomberg said. But Microsoft will, quote, make more of its best titles exclusive to Xbox, so gamers have a reason to buy its console. Now look, that's a pretty normal article right off the bat, right? Nothing too crazy, nothing too insane. But look what happens with the author just a few paragraphs later. You're gonna love it, trust me. The article continues by saying, things get interesting when we start to consider the mega games Microsoft has up its sleeve. I expect Call of Duty won't ever be Xbox console exclusive, given it falls into that big multiplayer game category. But Bethesda's Elder Scrolls 6 is a strictly single-player affair. As a result, could it skip PS5? Keeping such an enormous game off PlayStation would be one of the biggest calls in Xbox history. It would mean missing out on hundreds of millions of dollars of potential revenue from Sony's console, all in the hope it would encourage sales of Xbox Series X and S at a time of such financial crises. As Microsoft insists Xbox is suffering, can it afford to leave so much on the table? And here's perhaps the biggest question of all. Could the next mainline Halo game go back to its exclusive Xbox roots and skip PS5? This summer, Halo's campaign Evolved is multi-platform, but that was confirmed before Sharma took over the business and began her, quote, reset. Would a new Halo be considered a big multiplayer game and stick with a multi-platform release, or could it launch Xbox console exclusive? Okay, all right, look, again, that entire thing I said earlier about you can't have exclusives for Xbox was supposed to be a joke. But literally, in that article, the actual writer said the exact same thing I was talking about earlier. The literal catch-22. Xbox needs exclusives to sell consoles. Okay, we're going to make these games exclusive. No, you can't do that because you'll miss out on all the money of us buying your games. Well, you want to buy the console, right? No, we're not going to buy the console. We just want the games instead. Literally every single time. You need exclusives to sell consoles, but you can't have these exclusives because you don't sell consoles. It's actually insane to me, as PlayStation is burning down the literal gaming industry, removing ownership, hanging DRM over your entire faces, forcing you to be online, and soon to even add your ID to use actual console services. Now you're going to talk about, oh, I got to buy an Xbox and that's bad? Brother, listen. I'm sorry. Every single fanboy that's been talking about, well, if you want exclusives, you gotta buy the box. Guess what? That rule applies to you as well. Same with every other fanboy saying, guess what, PC gamer? If you want to play PlayStation greatness, you gotta buy the box now. Guess what? We're not gonna do it. Plain and simple, easy as pie. But you see, in my opinion, it's not all sunshine and rainbows for Xbox. And like I said before, I'd rather games be on every platform from every publisher, but that's just me being a PC gamer, by the way. But the thing is, the news doesn't stop here, and something I'm incredibly worried about is what Asha Sharma has been doing to a company and development studio like id Software. Because according to Andy Robinson of Video Games Chronicles saying this, an id Software developer claims it's been, quote, nuked into the dirt and relegated to a support studio size, as 136 layoffs are confirmed at the Doom and Quake studio. With the article saying this, on Wednesday, a warn notice was filed in Texas, indicating that 96 workers have been laid off in Richardson, Texas, where id is based, and a further 40 remote workers have also been cut for a total of 136 job losses. According to an announcement published by the Communication Workers of America last December, id had 185 employees in total, which would mean that if figures are accurate, the majority of the studio's workers have been laid off in this week's huge Xbox cuts. With Derek Best from id saying this, collectively, decades of knowledge was wiped out of the studio, he claimed. The VFX team was eliminated down to one single artist with no lead or producer. The engine programmer responsible for the massive gains in the VFX pipeline improvements, like all the particle editor work, was let go as well. He concluded, great job, Microsoft. Nothing says business success like nuking a team into the dirt and relegating them into support studio size, while also throwing out massive technological achievements. Now, personally, even though I was kind of on board with what Asha Sharma was doing, when I saw all the massive layers of management that were sitting around causing nothing to get done, and so many other dev studios were completely ignoring massive IPs that gamers in fact wanted to have made, yet they chose not to make them. And also, let's not forget about the fact that other dev studios like Double Fine were literally pitching game ideas to Microsoft and just getting blank checks to write them, even though they had no will or want or thought process of how much that game would in fact sell. Yeah, a lot of stuff was happening behind the scenes, but I think the knife, in my opinion, went way too far, especially into id. And that is a development studio that I personally have a lot of attachment to and a lot of history with. I loved their games from the very beginning. Doom and Wolfenstein were some of the first games I ever in fact laid my hands on, and literally got me into the FPS genre as they redefined it, made it, and have created everything all around it. Even now today, Call of Duty still uses id Tech in their engines to go ahead and run those games, which is why they run so incredibly smooth and are never having issues in terms of performance. So taking that studio down to just so few people really is concerning to me, especially the fact that Microsoft has a proprietary engine that is optimized to all hell and back, ready to go, and that's the dev studio they chose to take down. Now look, I'm going to be honest about this. I think the real big issue about why this is happening to id is mostly about the performance that happened with Doom the Dark Ages, especially on the PC side. It had a peak concurrent player base of what, 31,000 players? And even when the DLC came out, 13,000 people were playing at the time of this recording, maybe even falling around 11 around that time. But I feel like the expectations placed onto id and the checks that they tried to sign to get cashed really just bounced back on them. The fact that Doom the Dark Ages required ray tracing, unlike Doom Eternal, and the fact that we weren't locked inside of our homes while two of the biggest games in 2020 were in fact launched, one being Doom Eternal, the other being Animal Crossing. And clearly, everybody was memeing about those two games launching on the same day. And the problem that I'm really having with this altogether is the fact that Asha Sharma even stated in her own set that they want to do more games like Doom, like Quake, and even other IPs that id is in fact responsible for. How are we going to get those games if that's the studio you decide to burn to the ground and only have like 40 people left working in that space altogether? And that's really why I'm so upset about game journals right now. If you really want to talk about what's happening with Xbox, that's the story to run with. Not talking about whether or not they're going to spin off or sell the company or do anything else like that, or what games you're not going to be able to play because they're going to make them console exclusive. What an idiotic concept of all of this. It's almost as if we're watching the entire set of game journalists become nothing more than fanboys spreading around whatever information they want just because it affects them personally rather than being objective and just providing you the actual news. Microsoft and Xbox truly have the keys to the castle at this very moment in time and could literally be the one company that everybody's looking forward to. All Xbox has to do to have their PS4 moment is say, you know what? We're putting a disc tray on our damn next generation console, and you can have the disc or you can buy it digital. And then you can go ahead and make your physical disc into a digital license and still use both versions, whether it's disc or physical, and we also have Play Anywhere. Boom! That's all they gotta do. And everybody would look at Xbox and go, shit, well, PlayStation, what are you gonna do for us? And they're going to do nothing because they've already made those bets. They've already brought everything down, and they're ignoring every single thread, response, community note, and everything else across the board. Xbox has the opportunity to do everything right now for the customer and consumer, especially after removing all those layers of management. But I also feel like Xbox may have gone too far in their actual set of layoffs. But things might get worse because now the government might get involved. Because also, according to VGC, Xbox CEO Asha Sharma has been named as an advisor to the U.S. Federal Reserve on, quote, productivity and jobs. With the article saying this, the Federal Reserve is the central banking system of the United States. On Thursday, it announced the leadership and objectives of its 5 task forces established, quote, to advance the conduct of monetary policy. Notably, Sharma was named one of the 3 advisors on the Productivity and Jobs Task Force, which Federal Reserve says will be assessing, among other things, the impact of AI. According to a news release, the task force will look at, quote, the economic impact of new general purpose technologies, including artificial intelligence, to inform the Federal Reserve's policy judgments. Supported by the Federal Reserve staff, the task forces will operate independently with, quote, a mandate to follow the evidence, provide candid feedback, and produce rigorous findings for the Federal Open Market Committee. Look, I'm going to be real. If Asha Sharma's on the board, you're getting fired. Sorry. It is what it is, boys. We're all getting our jobs cut the way things are going. And if she's going to be someone that they're going to be tapping into, that's why I brought up that Doom article. Because clearly, if you're not producing the way you're supposed to, Asha Sharma has no problem taking that hatchet and making sure that you never work again, basically. Good luck in all your future endeavors. Now, even though everyone is running outside with this, talking about how could she sit there and be part of the Federal Reserve and all these insane things after all those job cuts, we're literally witnessing in real time, though, as we're watching as the gaming industry is collapsing from the insane bloat it's been, in fact, dealing with. I hate to say it, maybe those job cuts are, in fact, necessary, especially after what we talked about recently with the way things were being managed at Xbox overall. Studios not wanting to make games, studios pitching the worst games possible and still getting blank checks, developers going around and saying how they hated working at Xbox and how they didn't even like Xbox overall, but still took the job to work there. Weird when you think about it. And even due to those insane management structures, or even the fact that other studios trying to get involved in what games are being made, we can clearly see that there was way too much politicking inside of Microsoft, more than there was actually working, getting games done, and putting games out that people, in fact, wanted to play. Like I said, I'm incredibly concerned about this position that Asha Sharma is going to be taking with the Federal Reserve and her being someone that they're going to be tapping into about what's happening with AI. Even though her history is all about AI in the first place, and she clearly has some knowledge about the entire thing, what I'm looking at right now, though, is what's happening in the gaming industry and the fact that so many people still don't understand what's in fact going on. We're literally in a space right now where if Xbox and Asha Sharma can in fact grab the reins out of the hands of PlayStation as they've completely nuked their own goodwill across multiple decades and console generations, it's going to be a huge backlash overall in exactly what's happening, not only in game journalism, but also in the games market itself. And I'll be honest, the answer is not going to be exclusives. It's going to be, how do you provide proper DRM management? How do you provide proper digital ownership? And how do you provide actual safety nets for consumers who want to give you their money but are sitting back and saying, you know what? No, I don't trust you until you can prove to me you're actually going to earn it. And I think that's going to be Xbox's biggest challenge in these next 2 years. If they can prove that, if they can make customers show that, hey, we're going to be careful with what you buy and we're going to make sure you get to keep it, that's going to be the biggest win you've ever seen. Even if
instead of scrolling through thousands of presets, imagine a synth that literally creates new sounds for you.
I mean the flute.
Asha Sharma becomes a Fed. But you know what? I want to hear what you guys got to say about this in the comments section down below. Can you believe games media? Do you think Xbox has the right opportunity and chance to go through and take the reins out of Sony? Or do you think people are too ingrained into PlayStation right now to even actually care? I want to hear what you guys got to say. And speaking about what you got to say, here's the comment of the day from yesterday's video. With Eddie Golf saying this, $80 rentals is what they are basically trying to do. And Eddie, you're not wrong. If Xbox wants to win, they have to go ahead and do exactly what the PlayStation brand did during the PS4 era and the Xbox One moment. Go ahead and let everybody know, even if you buy digital, your purchases are safe and you're going to own them regardless. If they do that, nobody's really going to care about digital at all, and they're also going to be more willing to open up their wallets and give Xbox the money they're dying to see. But as always, if you guys want to see more of this kind of content though, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, and live streams, subscribe to the channel. If you want Discord access or emotes during those live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. Look, if you don't want to spend the buck, don't even sweat it. Come on down Saturday nights live, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel as I wear a banana suit and get insulted with text-to-speech. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Live Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel. Do you want even more of me, though? Check out Oh No, It's Alex Gaming. Link to that channel is in the description down below. New videos go out every single Monday, and I stream there daily from 10:30 a.m. to about 2 p.m. Watch me get really mad and angry at my chat as they try to backseat game me during Black Myth Wukong. It's actually kind of funny because I crash out on them and they just laugh at me, and then I laugh back, and then we all get to have a good time. Trust me, you don't want to miss it, and me crashing out is always funny to watch. Every day, 10:30 a.m. to about 2 p.m., Oh No, It's Alex Gaming. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys there for the stream to get you through your workday. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you Gooners next time. Peace!
Do you know how amazing it is? In just 3 seconds, it can give you a smoother shave than your wife's, leaving no stubble. Developed jointly by a renowned razor brand team.
Dubious ones, welcome back to the channel for some more WWE 2K26. Today, we got our very first sneak preview of WWE 2K27. What am I talking about? Well, if you're not familiar, stay tuned to the video as we're going to be talking about some interesting things that were just posted to the WWE Games social media, the WWE Games X account, as it seems like we've got something that more than meets the eye here, but I want to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. So make sure you let me know what you think about all this and what all this means and what this means for the future of the franchise and what we're doing going forward. But without further ado, let's get into all of it, shall we? Obviously, if you are new here, feel free to smash that subscribe button and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. But big things are here as WWE 2K26, the WWE Games channel, does at times post little social media, like retweet little things of stuff that people in the community, like their own little clips and stuff they put out on X. So where's the story there? Nothing really there, right? Unless we go up a little bit to a little bit more recently here. And you'll see here, WWE Games posted this 12 hours ago. Introduced him to the steel of WWE 2K26. And then quotes Sahara_gaming on Instagram, who posted this: WWE 2K26 steel steps made it deadly. Well, let's go over to my X account here first and show you what I had to say on this. So remember, folks, because if you're not aware, first let's look at the clip. You're going to see here, steel steps made it deadly. Do you notice something about these steel steps? Because you might. Those are the lower steel steps. Those aren't the regular steel steps. Those are the lower steel steps. What does that mean? That means WWE 2K26 just posted a video showing off mods in this game. That's right, mods. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, I'll let you know what I said here first. So remember, folks, every really awesome mod eventually does come to the game. Whether it be shopping carts to inferno matches, dumpster matches, thumbtacks, to stack tables, stacked higher than 2, like the archives backstage. These and so many other features, they were all mods first. Then 1 to 3 years later, they end up in the game. So if WWE is seeing what we can do this with the lower steel steps and are thinking, why not? Then I'd expect to see them usable in WWE 2K27 or 28. So I'll show off what you can do with the lower steel steps while I go through and read the rest of this. So just as a reminder to always support the modding community, as they're usually the ones innovating in the franchise first. And as you can see, I've got the lower steel steps that I made myself in the game. Super easy to do, to pull the files out of CakeView and then you assign them, profiles and all that. As far as the modding is concerned, it's not super hard to get these into your game, but I have made it. And little plug here, I actually do have a Patreon now for all my mods. For those of you interested, I will plug that right now. Just so you can see here, I have the lower steel steps available. I've also made the Havoc, as you've probably seen on the channel before, for the WCW Nitro Arena. So my WCW Nitro Arena is there with fully climbable stages and all that fun. As you can see, climb to the top, choke slam them off, do all the crazy spots you can imagine. As well as now I have glass tables, I have glass everything, glass doors, glass tables. Go variety up, German. Absolutely nuts. We'll mute that, but as you'll see in the video, some absolutely crazy spots you can do with the glass tables. I'll just try and get one good one in there for you guys. Looks like, yeah, here we go. A little pedigree off the top for you. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. So this is the kind of stuff I've been making, what I've been doing with mods. And so all this stuff is available to you on my Patreon. But the biggest thing of all is if you go to my channel here, I actually make all of these mods on the channel. so that you can see them yourself. You can see exactly what I'm doing. You can see exactly how to make them. I have tons of videos on the channel showing you how to make weapons and make mods in this game yourself. I show you exactly what I do and how I make all my mods. So if you want to make them yourself for free, feel free, go check out the channel, check out all the live streams I've done. This is just a stream highlight because this was a 20-hour stream of making weapons. This was 7 hours of it. This I actually make the lower steel steps usable and workable in this live stream. So you can go check that on the channel. Check out any of these videos for helpful guides or my live streams, as you can see me painstakingly making all these mods myself. You can see almost a 12-hour stream here, 5-hour stream there, another 11-hour stream there, 4-hour streams. We go at these things for a long time, and it's a ton of fun. I've been having so much fun with it. But back to the lower steel steps and what this posts.
Use Hako AI to bring your dream anime companions into your game. Meow!
Means. So we've already missed a bunch of insane spots, so I'll rewind that a little bit for you guys. As you can see, I've got the Terminator as a referee here. She just no-sold, just terminated that and said no thank you. But you can see the lower steel steps are so much fun. These things are great to have in the game. The crazy spots you can do with them are absolutely insane. But why does any of this matter? Well, the fact that 2K, WWE games themselves, are posting a video showing off people using these lower steel steps tells me one of two things. The first, I'm going to go with the obvious. There could just be someone who was blind, saw the post on Instagram, thought it was cool, thought it was the regular upper steel steps, didn't pay any attention. They posted it to social media. They had no idea that they were the lower steel steps that were being used in the video. And that is your probable scenario. But what I will say is things like I said in my post on X, things like the dumpster match were in 2K, were in with mods a year prior to it coming to the game. Because all they did was took the dumpster match and put a dumpster skin over top. And that's basically exactly how 2K implemented their dumpster match. Same thing for the Inferno match. Modders like Chainsaw Gnarly, shoutouts to him. He's one of the original modders with crazy, crazy match types and crazy mods that he would make. He had that in the game long before 2K. Lots of modders have been making this game, like they've been keeping this game alive for years on the PC side, making incredible things, and they eventually, ooh, what a brutal spot, but they eventually do make their way into the game. Same thing if you look at the archives backstage with the climbable Smackdown fist. Now we have like those 3 or 4 stacked high tables in the archives that you can't stack them that high regularly by default in the game. But with mods, of course you can. So I have props profiles in the background. You actually see tables. Some of those tables, they're all glass tables. Some of them are stacked 4 and 5 high. It's harder to see them because they're glass tables. So they're made of glass and they'll shatter like glass and everything. Again, mod also available like on the Patreon. Or you can just watch the live streams back where I made them fully on stream, start to finish. You can see exactly how to do it yourself, make them for free for yourself. But it's crazy, the stuff that modders do does eventually make its way to the game. Sometimes it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years. It really depends on how popular a thing it is and how functional it is in game. And with something, as you can see right here with the lower steel steps, the assets are already there in the game. It was just up to us pulling the files out, and you can see those brutal spots, how they function, how they interact. It's super easy for them to implement these as a weapon you can use in game. I made it so that you can pull them out from underneath the ring. That's how you're grabbing them. So you can put as many of them as you want. You can have like 6 of them in a match. Or if you do a props profile, other things, you can have even more of them if you want. Like I have that pool table in the background. That's part of a props profile. But there's so many things you can do with mods. And I do think because WWE 2K, again, tinfoil hat on here, but because they're posting this, showing off the lower steel steps, and they're going to see the reaction from the odd people who notice that it is the lower steel steps, I think that it's something that was super easy for me to get working in this game and have as a mod for you guys. So it would be super easy for the devs at 2K to put this into the game, and it's an easy selling point for 27 when they add stuff like this. Because we're not going to get these leaps and bounds when they cut so much of the staff from Visual Concepts. So an easy win for them is putting something like the lower steel steps in the game. You can see on screen how much fun it is just having a few of them and the crazy spots we're seeing that you can pull off with just the lower steel steps. Here I got them stacked 3 high. What was I going to do? And they fell apart. So I was like, oh, but those other 2 are in a good position. I still have a good position. I can still do something really cool here. Let's see what happens. Let's see what I can do with these. So I walk him over and I thought the spot was ruined, but that still was really cool. He landed on it and it slid him right outside the ring. And you get a replay here. Slides so naturally out of the ring from it, and it like went through the ropes properly. That was a really cool spot. Other cool weapons here. We've got like the side of one of the Hell in a Cell, one of the Hell in a Cell panels as a weapon, fully functional. It's great. I mean, it's a little janky, but the spots you can have, and it's so fun doing moves to guys on these kinds of things, right? So I definitely think something for like the lower steel steps. This is just maybe a little sneak peek, them testing the waters to see what the fans think. And when you see clips like this, what do you think? Do you not want these in your game? If you're on console, are you not like, why are these not in our game? These function perfectly. Look how crazy the spots are. He got his knees up for that one. Oh, but like, look at how crazy all these spots are. Another one. Boom. Look at this. Look at this. And then he slides on out. That's supposed to be a ladder bridge, but I tried making it made of glass, but it didn't function 100% correctly, but it's still pretty cool.
Instead of scrolling through thousands of presets, imagine a synth that literally creates new sounds for you.
But it's crazy the different things you can do with mods, and for something as simple as the lower steel steps, I think we're definitely going to see these as a functional weapon, because they've been a functional weapon in the 2K games on the mod side for years now. So the fact that it's so easy to pull them out and get them functional that even I could do it, and I've done it for you guys, so I have it available to you guys, it's pretty likely to me in my mind that they're going to be in the game for everybody, console, all platforms. If not 2K27, definitely by 2K28. But I think we're going to see these next year. I think this is a little sneak peek. Intentional or not, I do think this is a sneak peek of what we're going to see, because the spots you can do, man. It's amazing when you can walk over them like this and actually do moves on them and not have them just move out of the way like the upper steel steps do. When you can have these spots, incredible. You have no idea. This is the most fun. 2K26 is the most fun I've ever had in a wrestling game before, and it's all because of mods and because I'm able to make crazy mods like this for you guys. I'm able to stream it to you, and then I'm able to have so much fun in-game playing with them. Like, it's so crazy being able to make these spots and think of them in my head and actually make them a real thing in game. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you think this is coming? Do you think this is what we're getting? I'm going to look through some of the posts here and just see some of the comments down that some of you guys had to say about this post. Finally admitting half y'all ideas come from modders. Love to see it, from Dame Dawn. You guys constantly S on the modding community and make everything hard for them, yet are happy to share a modded clip on your socials. You guys are not realizing this is a mod is killing me with laughter. If this is only possible by modding and in the game, then isn't this false advertisement and very fraudulent to be putting it out there for anyone who might see this and think, great, I'm going to go buy it for this? False advertisement seems to be the theme of this year. So again, people have mixed reactions. I don't necessarily disagree with that comment entirely, because there are people who could see this and think, oh my goodness, the weapon physics are crazy. They added the lower steel steps, and they see clips on X of like my craziness like this, and they might think it's in the base game. This settles it. Y'all don't play your own game but my faction. People laughing this up. 2K uploading clips from a modded version of the game. We've got some memes. Then the game is boring and stale already. Sucks to say this because I'm a huge wrestling video games fan since the NES days. This series desperately needs a gameplay and presentation refresh and overhaul for 2K27. Well, unfortunately, we've lost a bunch of developers, so don't expect much next year. I'm telling you guys that right now. Wish there were actual win-loss wrestler stats and a rankings board. Y'all are dumb for thinking this ain't a mod. Add bottom steps as actual weapons. They actually are not accessible. You damn well you can't do this in the game. Whose footage did you steal? I mean, they credited who the shot was from. This is a modded clip. WWE games How about you actually implement good step physics and the bottom steps into the game? The game died before 6 months of launch. Congratulations. Real Rich, if to post a modded clip, why can't console users use the bottom steps? Exactly. Would you guys like to see the steel steps come to the game? Are you seeing the spots I made for you guys on screen? I literally spent 2 hours gathering footage for this video, by the way. I saw this clip earlier. The reason this video is coming out much later than this initial post went out is because I spent hours getting this footage and cutting it together for you guys. So I hope you appreciate that. But this was so much fun for me. Setting up all these spots, so much fun. So much fun. I think they should say this is modded. People may think they can use the lower part of the steel steps in the base game. LMAO. The official accounting posting a mod. Laughing my ass off. Is this game worth getting on PC with mods and all? Yeah, it is. I think I just missed the Steam sale, but I can wait again. Ain't Hort really played since 22, but I put hours into my faction when it first came out. Probably trash now, I'm guessing. Well, I can say to anybody who's looking to play this game on PC, this is 100% worth it with mods. You pick and choose the mods you want to do. You'll find whatever you can for free, obviously. For me, I'm always happy to post all my content, like through my videos, through my live streams, of how I make my mods. And for those of you who just don't feel like making these things yourself and you just want them in your game, well, then that's what my Patreon's for. That's what my Patreon's there for. You can subscribe. I think it's like $6 a month US. And you'll get access to all the mods I've made that I've put up to that date, right? Not just like for that month, but up to that date, right? So you can get access to this WCW Nitro Arena. This, I'm not showing off the havoc of like climbing the stage and the WCW letters and everything, but I've got tons of posts on the channel, tons of videos showing off all that stuff. This is more about the lower steel steps, which again, I just put up on the Patreon for you guys to have access to it. I've made sure that they have the proper sounds and everything, so they have the sounds of the steps and everything. I just put my final finishing touches on it for you guys before I made this video. So be ready and up there for you guys for anybody watching this video now. I wanted to have all this stuff ready for you, but to me, mods are the way to go. With PC, this game is so much fun. It's a complete game changer. For me, it turns the game into a 10 out of 10, and on console, I'd say this game's a 5 out of 10, unfortunately, this year. But for PC players, we are living good. This game is so fun. You can see when I got stuck in the thing. Again, my ladder bridge, I've tweaked to be pane of glass. It didn't shatter the way I wanted it to. So unfortunately, I haven't really used that. That's why I don't have stuff like that on the Patreon. But very, very funny spots. But again, this lower steel steps, so much fun to use. Fun for everybody. I don't know why we don't have this on console, but let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is coming in 2K27? Because I definitely do. People are up in arms in the comment section the more I'm reading. We can't share community creations with PC. Yeah, exactly, right? Can't even share PC community creations. Meanwhile, on PC, we get to do this. We get to have stuff like this going on. Amazing spots like the pop-up RKO. The fans chanted one more time, so that's why I got the second one in there. I did the first one, and then the fans were chanting, one more time, so I did it again. But like these spots are amazing. Oh, brutal, beautiful. Absolutely love it. So yeah, this is absolutely so much fun. The lower steel steps, one of my favorite weapons in the game overall. Obviously, I'm biased. I have like the glass tables now, so those are really awesome. But I mean, the lower steel steps are so much fun. So many fun things to do in this game with mods. But I need to know what you guys think. Do you think this was just a slip of the finger and they accidentally posted this, actively not knowing that this was mods? Do you think they made that mistake? Like, were they that silly? Did they make this mistake and actually, because there's a lot of people in the comments. Real Rich, if you posted a modded clip, why can't console users use the bottom steps? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, mixed feelings here. I think it's super cool. I really love the fact that we've got them, like, you know, showing this because fans get to see what it's like on PC. Hopefully we boost that player base. To me, I think we're getting them. Like I said, most popular mods make it into the game. Whether it's a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, they eventually make it into the game. And the lower steel steps have been popular for a long time. I think we're getting them in 27 in the base game. Maybe 28 at the latest. For me, doesn't really matter because I have the game on PC. So again, I can just...
Do you have a side income? No. Do you have a side income? Actually, yeah, I have an online store.
Wait, seriously?
Load up the game and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Throw them all. Throw them all in there. I can put a pool table in my game if I want. So me, I'm living good, but oh, these spots at the lower steps are crazy. Anyways, Dubious Ones, I need to hear your thoughts. And obviously, like I said before, if you are new here, consider subscribing. Hit the like if you did. And again, if you want access to the lower steel steps for yourself and you don't feel like actually crafting them and pulling them out of the game and putting them together yourself, I have full videos on exactly how to do that and full live streams, several hour-long live streams of me doing exactly all this. If you want to learn, just come watch my live streams. Come by anytime. Go watch the VODs on the channel. Go watch the other videos on the channel showing you how to do all this. But if you just want them in your game right now, want to play with them right now, go and check out my Patreon. As again, I'd love to have you as a patron. Again, membership, it's about $7.50 Canadian, so it works out it's about $6, maybe less US. And that'll give you early access to all my mods. All my mods I have available. As I mentioned before, we have the glass table up there. We have and here's showing off the little bit just to show you. I think I can get you to go through this side. Yes! Sorry. That was very loud. But this was Strizer and I playing it on the channel the other day. If you missed that stream, you can go check it out. But this is just showing off both the glass tables, which are super awesome. So you'll see this super great, awesome spot. Why is this staying up, not just full screen? It should go away. Anyways, you'll see this super awesome spot where we break the glass here. It's really weird that doesn't disappear. Ooh, brutal. So that's like the glass tables being shown off. And of course we have the, somewhere we got to be climbing the letters here. Climbing up the WCW stage. So much glass. So much glass, chat. So much. Here we go. We're getting closer. So here we go. Here's some of the climbable WCW letters. We've clearly got a spot right here. Looks like Strizer puts me through some more glass tables off the WCW letters. All this stuff available to you guys for anybody who wants to check out my Patreon here. You can see he power bombs me off. And kablamo. The glass didn't break right away because of the way I had the table set up, which was kind of hilarious. And yes, you can dive off the tables and everything. You can see I think he goes for an elbow drop right here. Smashes himself through more tables. I think that's what happened. Bam. Yeah. So they're fully diveable, climbable, all that fun stuff. You can climb all the way up the stage. You can even climb all the way up the curtain and go off the side for like the super crazy spot. I think that was over here. We're climbing up here and you can see big spot all the way down. So yeah, that custom WCW Nitro stage also available for all patrons for you guys. Because yeah, I just been having a blast. And if you want to see exactly how I made the stage and everything climbable, again, the live streams are right there on the channel for you to go check out. I have videos and live stream VODs all over the channel showing exactly how I make everything. All mods I make on the channel for you guys to see it. So you can do it yourselves completely for free. Just copy what I did and you can have it all for free. Or you can just throw me a few bucks, and if you want early access to them to get a chance to play them on your own, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, Bob is your uncle. But yeah, Dubious Ones, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until the next one, thank you all so very, very much for watching, and until then, deuces.
What if I told you you'll experience longer gameplay, more features hits, and higher payouts if you play at any casino?
You know, I'm trying to figure out what the hell.
The controversy just doesn't seem to go away. Anytime PlayStation posts on Twitter, because they're back to actually posting regularly now, you will see it flooded with people saying no disc, no buy, and all sorts of stuff. They've announced that they're going to be at the San Diego Comic-Con with some live stage stuff. They've got Wolverine and some other games there, and I'm pretty sure that there might be some people there that have some stuff to say. But will this actually result in any changes? Well, based off of the information that we've gotten so far from analysts out there, they don't think Sony's going to change. I think they think, or more like the thought process with all of this, is that Sony is thinking that they're going to make too much money being able to take all of the profits. We talked about this with Jason Schreier and how he broke down the sales and what you get from a packaged physical good compared to a all digital game through PSN, where they collect 100% of the profits and everything. So that is the biggest reason. They are leveraging the fact that people are just not going to move over, that they are going to get over it, that people are just going to say, okay, well, I still want to play my FC, my Madden, my Call of Duty, and my big PlayStation games, so oh well. But we do have some information here, which it says in the title. You guys have seen it, and it's actually a follow-up to my other video that I did talk about how the Nintendo Switch 2 sales are exploding after the announcement of ending physical games. Now, there's also an alternative thing here talking about how PC gaming could get a nice little bump if people decide to move over, because PC is known to be, of course, open platform. It also has different marketplaces for competing games, which is probably one of the biggest things here. Ownership over games and the licenses compared to maybe owning it through like GOG or what PC has, but also competing storefronts. If you only go through PSN, they can completely control prices. So you can have games, for example, like Gran Turismo 7 on the PlayStation Network that's $70, but you can buy it cheaper if you get it from Amazon or somewhere else. So we're going to go over some of the information that we've got here with people saying that they're going to leave, and a poll that was conducted, small scale poll, but still some information about what is going on here. Are people actually going to leave? Are the sales exploding with the Nintendo Switch 2? So we'll talk about that and some other Nintendo Switch 2 news as well. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Okay, let's start off here. We've got some posts on Twitter where we have this person saying that they sold their PS5, officially done supporting PlayStation and Sony as a customer, going all Switch 2 and PC from now on. Then you also have another person, Coffee Gamer, that stated that they got a Switch and they've completely sold off their PS5 and invested that into an RTX 5080 and turned the PC into a high-end machine. You also have Paladin over here as well saying, finally can say I bought a Switch 2. So this is all kind of just going. And this is just 3 examples, guys. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these posts on Twitter. I can't post everything, but there are thousands of people that are saying, selling my PS5 or sold my PS5, and I'm getting a Switch 2, or just buying a Switch 2, or just saying I'm going to invest into PC. Now, once again, that could be a small thing compared to the millions, the tens and millions of people who actually have a PlayStation 5 and are planning on getting a PlayStation 6. So we'll have to wait for everything there. Heck, Sony hasn't even revealed the PlayStation 6 yet. We don't know what features it's going to have. We don't know what they're going to do with some of the games. We don't know what they're going to do with a lot of stuff. I'm guessing it's going to be super high-end. People are going to like it. It's probably going to be like, if you like PlayStation, you're going to like what they do next, and you're going to want that power. So I do think that some people are definitely going to buckle or sway once Sony shows off how good the games look and all of that. But there are some people that are standing on business with their principle. Now, over on Push Square, which has some of the most hardcore PlayStation fans out there, there was a poll that they did talking about the whole controversy, how many of the enthusiasts are going to leave Sony for PC, and apparently PS5 has put a dampener.
Stop playing alone. Make every game a shared experience. Hacko AI keeps you company with
on gaming. 45% of enthusiasts seriously considering leaving Sony for PC. So seriously considering leaving it. So they have different polls set up. Are you moving from PlayStation to PC? With over 6,500 votes for some of them. When people talk about considering PC, over 5,233 votes, kind of what's going on there. And a lot of people are very upset when it comes to ending physical games. Some of the highest percentages and reasons why is because of that. If they are moving over or considering, it's because of what's happening there with the physical games. Some of it is based off of cost, if we're gonna get it or not. If it's $1,000, which it's definitely looking like it's going to be $1,000, or they're going to have a problem with the PlayStation 5 Pro, or they're going to discontinue, or they're going to drop the price on the PS5 Pro. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen, because that system is $900 without a disk drive, you know. So maybe the writing was on the wall when they started removing the disk drives from Pro systems. But if you look at everything in totality, I'm not trying to say that all of a sudden nobody's going to buy a PlayStation 6 because of the physical game controversy. You've got a lot of people that are actually defending it and saying that physical games are obsolete and I don't buy it, so why should anybody else buy it? And really stupid things like that when it comes down to like, oh, well, you know, the economy of it. Like, okay, well, I want to be able to own my game, lend my game out, trade my game without having to worry about accounts. You know, Sony can just remove stuff from your account anytime that they want to. Sure, are they going to do it? Probably not, but you know they can. There's something in there that says that if you are inactive for 3 years, they can close your account down, which that's fine, but that's why maybe you don't want to have all your games tied to an account, you know, so people can hack your account. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that can happen, and that's why choice. It's not like we're trying to get rid of one or the other. We want both. We want digital and we want physical. Listen, if Sony said, hey, people like streaming a lot and streaming is the future, so we're gonna get rid of digital, the digital people would be upset because you don't want to stream, you want digital. So I think that it should be all of them. There should be streaming, there should be digital, there should be physical games. When you give consumers options and choices, that's better for everyone. Trying to remove an option because you don't use it, that doesn't make anything better. Heck, that might even make things worse. Because sometimes you'll see discounts and sales on a physical game, and sometimes that will transfer over to the digital version. The publisher will see that and say, okay, we'll match that when it comes down to it. So to me, at least, that's how it should be. And if they don't change it, yeah, not everyone is going to abandon Sony, but there's going to be a lot more people based off of all the posts that I've seen and just some of the momentum that Nintendo's having. Ocarina of Time is coming out, Fire Emblem's coming out, Xenoblade Genesis is coming out, Pokemon Winds and Waves is coming out, 3D Mario is coming out. There are going to be a lot of people that are opting to say, okay, maybe I will get rid of this and go into it, and I'll see or wait about the PlayStation 6. So it's one of those things where Sony has to tread real carefully here. There is seeming to be a shift. There was already momentum behind the Switch 2 because of the great exclusives and the consistent exclusive lineup releases pretty much every single month or so. There's something good to play. And I do think the price of it, obviously not being $1,000 and still supporting physical games. Yes, game key cards, but at least game key cards tie it to not your account. They tie it to the actual cartridge itself. It's on a server, but it's not tied to an account and everything. So you can sell it, you can trade it, you can play it on multiple systems. You don't have to worry about that. There's been some misinformation going around that you can only use it one time or it's like a code or something. That is not true. You can essentially play it just like a physical game after it's downloaded on any system. It's not tied to an account or anything like that. It's also not even tied to the eShop when it comes to that. It's tied to just like a server that's there and it downloads the game. So for me, at least, I don't like game key cards, but at least there is that option compared to just all digital. Plus, all of Nintendo's first-party worldwide published games are going to be on cart, and there is a growing selection of third-party developers that are putting their games full on cartridge. We're going to talk about one of them in the next story here, but it does seem like there is a little bit of a shift, but I don't think it marks the end of PlayStation or anything. I do think that if the system is $1,000 and of course they get rid of physical games, you are going to see more of an enthusiast system. I don't think the fervor that you got when it comes to it selling as well as maybe some of the past PlayStation systems, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to put that over the course of a long period. Yes, at the beginning, sure, of course you're going to have the scalpers, you're going to have the enthusiasts go out there and get it, but afterwards, $1,000 plus, no physical games, that's going to be a tough sell for a lot of more of the casual consumers, especially when the PlayStation 5 is still going to be on the market and have physical titles of the games that have released before January 2028. And it's still going to get all of those casual games like Call of Duty and Madden and FC and NBA 2K and Fortnite and Roblox. It still has all that, which is some of the most popular games on PlayStation's platform. So there's going to be a lot of reasons why people don't need to switch over to the PlayStation 6. So I do think that it is going to take a hit, but maybe Sony is completely okay with that because they're making so much money on microtransactions and revenue from these games that they don't have to worry too much about not being able to sell as many systems right there at launch because they have the PlayStation 5 as a plan that's still working with 50 million subscribers on PSN. And if you're looking at some of the other stuff that we've seen so far when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, pretty much the same follow-up that I gave with my previous video. You go on Amazon, Switch 2 is by far the best selling system best sellers across Target, Best Buy, Walmart, and my locations and areas. Spoke with a few different people that work in distribution with management in some of these big retail chains. Switch 2 by far selling the best, especially after the price increases. We saw that with the Circana sales. We're seeing it with the Japanese sales, triple what the PlayStation 5 sold, or about triple what the PlayStation 5 sold. So even though it's more expensive there in Japan over the PlayStation 5 digital version, still selling better there. So pretty much in most places from what you can see, Switch 2 is moving more units, and it does seem to be doing better. Now there is going to be a price increase for the Nintendo Switch 2 later this year in September 1st to be exact. So we're gonna have to kind of monitor and see how it does afterwards. But up until then, they do have the Choose Your Game bundle. They also have the $450 base Nintendo Switch 2. Completely backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch 1 games is a huge value proposition for so many people out there, especially if you can't afford as many games right off the top, $70 games or whatever, or $80 when it comes to Mario Kart if you're not getting that bundle. So it is something that I think people are taking advantage of, and we're seeing that in the sales numbers. Now, will we see a boost in the US sales numbers for this upcoming month? The gaming industry is not in a good spot. A lot of studios are getting gutted. People are getting laid off. Layoffs at Bethesda, layoffs at ZeniMax, all sorts of stuff everywhere, getting let go left and right. So right now the industry is making money, but it's not healthy because the top performers, the top movers, Fortnite, Roblox, and all that, they're doing all of that, and they're making all the money, or a lot of the money. And then you have Nintendo off on this like weird little island, but that's making so much noise, everybody else over there can hear it. They are putting in work, but their business model, what they do, how they operate, and why people are gravitating towards it so much right now, it's something that a lot of these companies can't replicate because they decided to go down just the power route and kind of get rid of some of the whimsical and more fun things that were in their library to try to train their audience into certain stuff. And I think that it might catch up with them. This might be the generation that the tech and the prices and the non-diversification of what you do finally catches up to Microsoft and Sony, based off of all of the shutdown studios, all of the layoffs, and all the issues that they've had, even looking at selling systems. I mean, PlayStation 5 is not selling as good as PlayStation 4 aligned. It's underneath. Still got GTA that's coming out. I think they're kind of banking on that to be the big savior of everything. But obviously the Xbox Series is not selling as well as the Xbox One and nowhere near the 360. And of course the Nintendo Switch 2 is beating out both those launch aligned, selling better. So I do think that it's a trying time in the industry, but we'll see what happens. But we're also going to see what happens with Orbitals. This game is looking awesome. I've been talking about it quite a bit. I want to make sure that I talk about it as much as possible, or whatever I can, because it's a game that's third-party title that's full-on cart. It's a Switch 2 exclusive. It's a co-op style game, kind of like It Takes Two or kind of like Split Fiction. It's like that, but the previews for this game are ravingly good. They are talking about how this game is super fun. It's got some innovative gameplay mechanics in there, and now we have the Orbitals voice cast being announced in addition to the opening animation. You guys know who Rebecca Wang, Stephen Fu, Jonathan Ha, and more are all in this. So it's really cool to see some of these great voice actors in here. And I love what they're talking about when it comes to the characters. They give a little description of them. So Maki, as you can see here, the blue-haired girl, you guys know who she is. Voiced by Rebecca Wang, strong-headed mechanic and the youngest person in the settlement. And then you have Omura, voiced by Stephen Fu, a quiet cartographer, often lost in his own train of thought. Omura and Maki grew up on the settlement together like twins. Japanese voice cast includes Risa, Kageyama, Ryota, Osaka, and more. Now, Orbitals is due out exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2 on September 3rd. I have got some questions wondering if this game is going to come over to Xbox and PlayStation or PC, and I think it eventually will. I think they were just trying to really hit the Nintendo Switch 2 because they are a brand new development studio, and the Switch 2 has such a unique premise for out-of-the-box co-op play, or very easy co-op play anywhere. So they decided to go with the Switch 2 and really just nail that system and everything, since they are a small team. They don't want to kind of spread themselves too thin with all the tech across Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So just get it out on Switch 2, see how it does. Then, of course, you can just port it over later once you have time, more funds coming in, and all of that. So I think that's the reason why, but it's looking good. Orbitals looks like it's going to be a great game. They've got this opening animation. I love the old school retro aesthetic of like the 80s or /90s anime. Looks great. Orbitals is going to be a fun game. They've done some really cool stuff. So if you haven't checked it out yet, when it comes to the gameplay segments and all that, check it out. It's really cool. And the previews for Orbitals, I've read some of them and I'm excited to get the game. And remember, you do get $10 off on Amazon if you decide to buy it there. So you can get the $50 physical version for $40 on Amazon pre-order. So you can go in and get that done. Or of course you can just get it digitally too as well. So what do you think when it comes to everything we talked about here? A lot of stuff. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.
Hi, let me tell you about our widgets. First, let's explore our library of easy-to-use
There are a few big, interesting Switch 2 news stories we need to cover today, starting with Nintendo maybe giving us some sign of hope for that VRR feature that you may have once seen advertised officially on the FAQ page for the Switch 2, but it was mysteriously missing from docked mode as we got closer to the console's release. And you cannot do it in other than handheld mode, and we'll break down what VRR is, why it's important to the Switch 2 as a whole, and why it may now be coming in the future, probably in the form of a firmware upgrade. Then we have a brand new release of a free demo for one of Nintendo's more recent first-party published games, and this is one of the ones that I was waiting to check out. It is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, so maybe this demo will bring me around on buying it, and definitely want to go over that with you all. Then we have Mouse PI for Hire getting a massive Switch 2 update with a lot of quality of life fixes, and the big thing, a 40 FPS performance mode that it very much needed up to this point in time. Ubisoft is bringing the Crew Motorfest to Nintendo Switch 2, so we will go over when that game will be released. And Hell Is Us did just get a slight delay for Switch 2, but is still headed to the platform nonetheless. So we're going to break all of this down in detail. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we're going to first kick this off right over at Go Nintendo, where you can see the following article, which outlines Nintendo job listing offers hope for Switch 2 docked VRR support. And you have here, with the introduction of the Switch 2, Nintendo fans got their first taste of VRR, or variable refresh rate. For those who don't know, VRR will change a TV's refresh rate in real time to match a game's frame rate, resulting in a smoother experience. It's certainly a nice option to have, and Switch 2 owners can make use of it right now, depending on how they play. The Switch 2 does support VRR, but only in handheld mode. Before the Switch 2 launched, there was talk of VRR support on both docked and handheld mode, and even Nintendo's own FAQ page pointed that out being the case. Things were changed shortly before launch, and VRR was shifted to handheld use only, and we're still wondering why. We know that the Switch 2 dock is capable of VRR, yet Nintendo has blocked it off. While we never got an official explanation for that, it seems like Nintendo still has some kinks to work out, and they're looking to do that right now. Nintendo has posted a job listing for a display engineer with experience in troubleshooting display protocol VRR issues between HDMI and DisplayPort signaling. While not proof positive the Switch 2 will get docked VRR support in the future, it at least leaves us with some hope. And then you can look at the job posting in question, but it does specifically hire for that. And I actually want to highlight a couple comments that are just right on this Go Nintendo article, because this does align with my thought process here. We always knew it was DisplayPort to HDMI issues, since that is notoriously finicky. Even the Steam Deck, which does support VRR through its dock, has a lot of VRR issues, stuff that Nintendo would never be okay with in one of their products. Here's hoping they do figure something out, because I think the Switch 2's biggest hardware issue is the lack of VRR in docked mode. And then you actually have this next comment, which points out Switch received a Bluetooth audio update in 2021, 4 years after release, to the point of, yeah, Nintendo can add in this thing later via a firmware upgrade. You may remember the Bluetooth was like a horrible experience on the original Switch and was very limited in its functionality, to the point where like Bluetooth headsets were notoriously laggy if they worked at all with the hardware. Things got significantly better after a Bluetooth audio update that hit that console. And so the point of that being is VRR is something that Nintendo could absolutely add in if they can get the kinks worked out. And I really think, because it was listed on the FAQ page in the lead up to the Switch 2's launch as a docked mode feature, then removed later on, that it was something they thought they could get across the finish line without bugs, glitches, and hiccups in the lead up to the Switch 2's launch, but they just couldn't do it. And now they're actually going back and hiring somebody that knows their stuff with troubleshooting this exact type of issue This is likely pointing to the fact that they are going to try to solve for this and ultimately patch it in via a firmware upgrade in the future. And to kind of give you the brief explanation of what VRR is, it's like your display rate is at a fixed rate, so like 60 hertz or 120 hertz. If your gaming device, aka the Switch 2, has a sudden drop in frames to something like 45 FPS, a fixed rate display would have to artificially repeat the frames or show half of 2 different frames at once, which causes like visible tears and motion judder. And then VRR solves this by having the display adapt in real time. If the game drops to something like 45 FPS, the screen instantly drops to 45 hertz, forcing the hardware to display into perfect alignment. So basically, this just makes for a smoother gameplay experience when it's all said and done. And you probably know a number of Switch 2 games that are pushing the boundaries do have that kind of fluctuating frame rate, especially when you're going like, let's say, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth into one of the more massive open world areas, and it's struggling to hit those higher frame rates. This is just the type of feature that will be beneficial for smoothing things out and making it a better visual experience overall. It's not going to be a game changer for the frame rate of Switch 2 games or anything like that, but it is a nice quality of life enhancement that does truly make a difference, especially if you're more sensitive to stuff like frame jitter and you notice frame drops a lot and things. VRR definitely helps. So here's hoping it's coming to Switch 2 via a firmware upgrade in the future. Not confirmation, but I would say a very telling job post that should give us quite a bit of hope that Nintendo is indeed working on this in the background. Moving on next from there, we do indeed have a brand new free playable demo for Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. As you can see here over from VGC, you can now try one of Nintendo's best Switch 2 games for free. They definitely liked Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. Nintendo has released a Yoshi and the Mysterious Book demo. Available now on the eShop, a demo allows a user to try the first chapter of the game with all progress able to be carried over to the full game should you wish to purchase it. They go into the development history and all of that, and they actually said some really great things about Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. VGC specifically saying 5 out of 5 Yoshi and the Mysterious Book review called the game a brilliant, unique side scroller. And while I have heard a lot of positive things said about this game, it's definitely like a different type of gameplay experience. It's not something where you are trying to platform and you might die and you have to try and try again. It's not going to give you a challenge in a boss fight and you have to figure out how to get past the boss, and the real challenge is not dying at the end. Like, there's literally no damage in this game, and you also don't die from enemies or falling off cliffs and things like that. Where the challenge comes in this game is finding all of the different creatures that you come across and completing some of the puzzles in order to find those. And I do understand it to be like a pretty surprising amount of content when it's all said and done, especially if you are more of a completionist that's going to go try to find literally everything you need to 100% a level. There's also some very like abstract and crazy ideas that they went for with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. So listen, I'm down to try it out. I never went to like a retail store and played it at all. It was just a game that caught my attention enough in the build up to it, but when it came time to release, other things were out. I didn't really end up going out of my way to pick it up and play it day one for the channel or anything like that. So this is one that when there's a free demo out there and you say my save progress transfers over to the main game, that's always ideal. I'm down to check this one out. I will download it and maybe end up purchasing Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, or maybe it's just a good enough experience that I remember it for whenever it does go on sale in the future for maybe a holiday time Nintendo sale, since let's be real, we don't see their first party games go on sale very frequently. Next up, a game I very much enjoyed my time with from start to finish is Mouse PI for Hire, and let me tell you, I now have a reason to go back to this. I'm excited to check it out because it's getting a feature that it very much needed in my opinion. You can see here over from Nintendo Life, Mouse PI for Hire gets a massive Switch 2 update with new 40 FPS mode plus uncapped variable refresh rate. You have here developer Fumi Games has released another update for Mouse PI for Hire, and it's a big one. Not only does version 1.2.0 target a huge amount of bugs, but it also adds in some neat new features. First up, it adds uncapped VRR for compatible devices, which should result in better performance. In addition, a new balanced 40 FPS mode has been added. You can now revisit levels you previously beat in order to mop up any incomplete side quests, and UI elements have also been improved, including the ability to view weapon enhancements in Weapon Wheel. Nice. So let's check out the full patch notes. So I'll tell you guys just some of the highlights here, the high level ones. Level revisit is cool. Replay previous levels to collect missing collectibles and finish incomplete side quests. This feature is accessible via the overworld map by simply driving up to a completed level and selecting revisit. Completing the game will now automatically transport you to the hub zone after the credits roll, providing access to the overworld map to replay levels. For players who have already completed the game, select continue or reload your latest save file in the main menu, which will transport you to the hub zone and provide access to the overworld map to replay levels. Balanced mode adds a new 40 FPS balanced graphics mode on Nintendo Switch 2, uncapped VRR variable refresh rate support for smoother gameplay on compatible displays. We were just talking about VRR a moment ago. Performance optimization, general performance and optimization pass across the game. Weapon wheel upgrade display, weapon upgrades levels now displayed on the weapon wheel. Weapon wheel visual uplift, improved visual states and readability on the weapon wheel, and then a few other bug fixes and minor improvements. But here's what I'll say: this is a quality game. If you've been waiting for like a really cool boomer shooter FPS experience, like, I'm not an FPS guy at all, and the art style and the noir feel for the story of this game is kind of what drew me into it. It has such a fantastic soundtrack, let me tell you. Like, I had moments vibing out, walking through different levels, then coming across intense boss fights, and the music always hit accordingly. Like, it was calm when it needed to be calm, it was crazy intense when it needed to be intense, and the boss fights are unique in and of themselves. You fight some crazy looking enemies, so much inspiration from like the Disney Goof Troop style looking characters and stuff. It's just a lot of callbacks to that visual design that you just don't typically see in a game. A lot of funny puns and comedy, and actually a pretty interesting story to boot. Like, I really enjoyed all of my time with this game. Crazy platforming, you constantly are actually getting new abilities that make you feel that much more capable, and the weapons are super creative, and there's a reason to switch between different weapons. You can level them up. So like, if you can't tell, I love this game. And one thing that I did notice is if I was playing on 60 FPS mode, which I enjoyed doing, there was plenty of times and moments where lots of enemies were on screen and the frame rate was noticeably lagging behind. I mean, you would absolutely see the frames drop from 60. It was not a solid 60, and 30 just felt a little bit noticeably slower. Just, you wanted it to be 60 if it could, but it couldn't hold it at that whole time. The one thing I've always wanted was that more middle of the road 40 FPS experience. Surprisingly, those extra 10 frames make a pretty big difference in my opinion, and I will be excited to go back, check it out, and definitely replay some of the levels to completion, because there is that side quest and optional type of stuff that you can do in this game that there's plenty of replay value for it. So good update to see. Definitely go check out Mouse PI for Hire if you haven't already. It's an easy recommendation from me. Next up, you have Ubisoft is bringing the Crew Motorfest to Nintendo Switch 2. The Crew Motorfest is receiving a new version for Nintendo Switch 2. According to retailer listings, the game will be out on October 8th, 2026. The Crew Motorfest originally released in 2023, but is still going strong today with new seasons. The new open world driving game lets players explore the island of Oahu in Hawaii and participate in Motorfest, an always renewed festival designed for car enthusiasts. So if you're looking for a new racing game for Switch 2, this will be a cool one to check out. It is a game key card for its physical release. An unfortunate one. I wish that this was something that was on the cartridge, but I will tell you this, in light of Sony's recent announcement of just killing physical games entirely, game key cards aren't looking near as bad as they used to me, at least as of lately when I've been looking around online. But the visuals of this game, really impressive. I do think if you're a car enthusiast, racing game fan in general, you want that open world type of racing adventure experience on the Switch 2, potentially playing it on the go or in docked mode, this looks like it may be a good one to pick up. It is currently up for pre-order at $49.99, so that is what it will be being sold at right at release date. And October, not a long turnaround time, not too long of a wait. The way we're flying through 2026, it will be here before you know it. So one to watch out for the Switch 2, and a nice addition to have, as there's good racing games on the Switch 2, but I definitely think it could use more of them. So nice one to see, brought over from Ubisoft. Lastly, to close this out, just a quick update for Hell Is Us. As we previously talked about this being confirmed for Nintendo Switch 2, well, there's an update to this article, and it has been delayed, not by a lot, but you do have the initial report reading that the official announcement was set for the Switch 2 and to expect to see it on September 24th, 2026. So that has been its release date, target release date, I should say, up to this point in time. The update now reads, the game has been delayed a bit and will now launch on October 8th. The below official statement is, hey Nintendo players, the team at Rogue Factor, Nacon, and its partners have been working hard to bring the experience of Hell Is Us to Nintendo Switch 2. Everything is on track, Still, we have decided to postpone the release from September 24th to October 8th, exactly 2 weeks. As you know, September 2026 is very busy in terms of game releases, so we believe it's best for everyone involved, our team and partners, and for you, the players, to move our release date to a less busy period. We can't wait for you to be able to play Hell Is Us on Nintendo Switch 2 and discover everything we have in store for you. So this is kind of becoming an issue because all the games that are coming out towards the end of the year are trying to dodge that month of November, aka the GTA release month. If you're me, aka the Ocarina of Time probable release month, that's the only game I'm really caring about in the month of November, because I think Nintendo's actually going to drop that game maybe earlier into November, maybe on the same day as GTA, because that's literally just Nintendo. They'll do their own thing if they want to. But nonetheless, Hell Is Us moving that around and being transparent for the reason, just being the fact that, hey, the end of September is busy for gaming. We're not trying to release our game on Switch 2 at probably one of the most busy times of the year. So let's give you a couple more weeks to wait and get it into the beginning of October, where maybe things are a little bit less busy. But to be fair, Nintendo's going to hold a jam-packed, likely Nintendo Direct in the month of September. It's their most historic, frequent month. If you look at, like, while they've skipped June occasionally, they've skipped February occasionally, they've never skipped September, not since the Switch has been a thing. So I'm thinking they're holding their presentation. I think they will. They'll give us a lot of dates for new games coming up. Some of them may be like quick turnarounds or shadow drop announcements. And we're going to be learning about maybe the release date time of the Duskbloods, and maybe that's in October too. Who knows? So far, all we know about in October is Switch Sports Resort. But nonetheless, Hell Is Us still on the way, but just a slight delay. So let me know in the comments down below what you make of all the different stories we talked about today. What do you think about the likelihood of VRR making it to Nintendo Switch 2? And do you think that this job listing is indeed an indication that this is coming soon? What's your thoughts on Yoshi and the Mysterious Book getting a free demo, and will you be checking it out if you haven't already? Or if you own Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, what's your thoughts on the game as a whole? Mouse PI for Hire getting the big Switch 2 update. Are you excited for that? 40 FPS mode. Have you checked out the game yourself at all yet? And if so, what are your thoughts? The Crew Motorfest, is that a game that you will be interested in potentially picking up when it's out? And what about the Hell Is Us delay? Is that a game that's on your radar for launch on Switch 2 now in October? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go offline now, and I'll be back on after lunch. Thank you, Kaylee, for being my new mod and for joining me with my live stream. All right. Have a good day, everyone. See you soon.